turn our cameras on, we'll clap at the same time.
That's not even no. We can't. We literally can't do that.
Okay. All right. I got a story for you, Jake. Or maybe I should have phrased it as a question that I pose.
Okay.
Did I say prose? That I pose to you.
You did
You
say
can prose
pros,
it.
yeah.
I'll prose it and pose it. All right. Jake, as a DM, this question is kind of a expanded version of a question from Reddit user Marbled Gummy. That reminds me of those, those like gummies that have like the white streaks in them. I don't even know if it's a different flavor.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
His name is Marbled Gummy, like the gummy candies that have like the white that runs through them.
I've never seen that before in my entire life.
All right, get in the comments. People know what I'm talking about.
We've had different upbringings.
All right, fair enough. Get in the comments. They know what I'm talking about. So this Reddit user, Marbled Gummy, asks, what do you do when you mess up or reveal a player's secret?
Dude.
And I think that we can answer that, but also I would like to maybe broaden that out to just as a DM, like if you slip up and you give some information that you weren't planning to give away yet, or you give up a secret, what's your reaction? How do you handle that?
I think as everybody would probably agree, the first thing you do is you shit your pants.
Immediate nervous,
immediate defecation straight into the
scrolling
drawers.
Through notes, like
yeah,
trying to like grasp the gravity of what just happened.
Yeah, and the thing is that like, you could do one of two things. You could try to play it off as if you like didn't say that, or the second option is you fucking immediately stop talking and then then everyone knows. Everyone's like, he just revealed something you shouldn't have because he stopped talking. He's looking at his screen.
I like immediate gaslighting. I think as a DM in general, I think your poker face is important for sure. I think you do have to develop some level of poker face. And I've found
so
like it's really hard. I know, like, especially when you have like a cool moment planned and you're just getting to it, and, like, you know that you're about to drop a line or a magic item or something that you're so excited for. Like, you really got to lock in.
Dude, my problem is I'm such a smiley person in conversation that like I'll like be in the middle of this cool scene and then I'll just like it's obvious that like if you looked at me while I'm DMing, you're like, that motherfucker is planning something, and he knows that it's gonna be interesting because he's got the biggest shit-eating grin on his face right now.
I know, because I'm just stoked. Like I'm so excited for like whatever player it's happening to or the group or whatever, or especially like if a twist is coming up. Like if I know I'm about to reveal, so I guess this is good in line with the question, but if I know I'm about to like kind of drop a plot twist, like I like really gotta lock in and kind of contain it. But okay, you're playing and you reveal a piece of information. Maybe it's a secret about a player, about their backstory. Maybe it's about the campaign at large. You reveal a secret.
It's pretty rough. That is pretty rough.
It's pretty rough. How do you want to, what would you do? What would the steps you take to kind of rectify that or handle it with the players to make it the most fun, I guess? Because that's always the goal.
That's kind of hard because like, I mean, my first like thought would be like, okay, gauge the room. Did everyone actually hear what I just said?
True. Yeah.
Then it becomes an if-then statement then.
Right, because it totally could just slip through, like, and nobody says anything.
Yeah,
and you might just be all right.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's like, if like a character's point is like, oh, this tattoo is gonna move across my body, and like I'm just like, oh, your tattoo moves, and then like everyone like sits there and pauses for a second, and looks at me like, huh? I'm like, oh fuck, Jesus Christ, I didn't mean to do that at all. Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I'd probably just like roll with it, like. At some point, it's gonna happen, like, if, like, oh, this person has a sentient tattoo and they wanted to keep it secret for some fucking reason, like this, I don't know why I run this bit, but,
I mean, I like it. It's a specific example. Could happen.
It's a specific example. If I let slip that their tattoo is sentient, starts talking or something, or moving or something.
Not a bad idea. I don't think we've had
kind of a cool one. Yeah.
Kind of a cool thing.
I don't know if I'm a genius or the exact opposite, but that is one of my better ideas. But yeah, if you just drop it randomly, like it's gonna come out at some point. So I think just roll with it. Like
that's definitely a path. I think there's a couple of paths. I think just rolling with it is totally valid. I think just being like, all right, now you guys know, like let's explore what that means. Um Also, I think you can kind of delve into the idea that players sometimes know things that their characters don't, right? So if you really bomb something, like if you give away something that like really breaks the illusion or the immersion around some piece of the campaign, or around a player, or maybe the player's just really boned, maybe they really wanted to reveal the secret and you slip up. I think you could be honest and say, "Oh, I just said that thing, and I really wanted to keep that a secret. So, just remember that you, Jake, do kind of know that, and we'll put that in the back of your mind. But Ragnar the barbarian or whatever doesn't know that. He doesn't. He's not aware of that." Which I think is okay. It's not probably the most satisfying thing in the world, but I do think that, in a like-minded, level-headed group, I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would say with our group, like we could get away with doing that.
right.
Just being like, your character doesn't know what just what I just said. That's
and I want to hope that anybody taking our advice is playing with a group of people they enjoy and trust. I mean, that's kind of always not always the case, but that's really all I can give advice for. Obviously, I'm sure we'll read some stories about some bad groups or bad DMs, but that's a whole separate issue. How do you feel about player secrets in general? Like if somebody's making a player character, they're making their character and they have a secret in their backstory or some sort of secret, identity. They're a changeling. They're a something. Like just enjoy. They have some secret. How do you feel about that?
Okay. I probably am significantly different than most people because when I create my characters, I don't do a damn thing to create my characters. Actually, I generally my character creation process is as thus: I figure out what class I want to play, and I figure out a name, and then maybe like a theme for the character, like what kind of person is it, and then that's it. I don't I really don't delve into like their background too much when I'm making a character. So like for me, like a player's secret doesn't exist because I don't even know.
Sure. But as a DM, if you're like, DMing for someone that's creating a character,
like if someone else has like, I mean, we've had lots of times where people have been like, okay, I've got this one thing and it's something that I keep to myself. I'm gonna be like, okay, cool. Like it probably won't affect like the story at large, but when you bring it up, like that's gonna be like that'll be cool for you, I guess.
Yeah, we've done a lot of player secrets or player character secrets before, and I think at this point I'm starting to stray away from it because I think if you start a character that has some big secret, then there is X amount of sessions where you're not being
where you're basically
completely genuine. Yeah, where you're not being completely genuine with that character or honest, big or small. And I think you're just holding yourself back from getting it fully into that character and getting fully invested in the group. I think one of the most important things when creating a character is you have to make somebody that wants to be in the adventuring group. That wants to be there, that wants to save the world, be on the big mission, slay the dragon, and be friends with these people. I think if you're a more experienced player, you can pull back on some of those things. Maybe they don't know if they want to save the world, or maybe they don't know how they feel about these people, but you have to be very careful because I think you will fall into a trap where you have a character that doesn't feel satisfying to play because either they don't want to be there or they don't like these people. And that's never fun because then you feel like maybe you should switch characters, retire a character. Maybe you are kind of waiting for this character to die. Like it's never good. You always want to be there, want to be involved, want to like the people around you. And honestly, the more I play, I think the quicker that happens, the more fun. Like I think as soon as all the players in the group really like each other's characters. The characters like each other. They're very close, and they start opening up, telling each other their backstories in game, saying, oh, I come from this place, or I had this happen to me. I think that's where you get some of the best role play. You trust each other, you're invested in each other's characters, you care if something happens to them. And I think you should be trying to get there as quick as possible, even if it feels like, oh, it's only session 2 and, I'm revealing this information or being really close to these people. That's the game, man. I mean, it's not real life where, you have to be really slow to trust people or whatever, right? You can expedite that to make the game more fun, I think, for sure.
Yeah. I like, we've had some games where like a player's secret is a pivotal plot point before. And I guess that's one way that you could like approach a player having a secret, but I don't think it works with parties that aren't very experienced, because it kind of like, at least for the moment of whatever the plot point is, that person is like 100% the spotlight, because they either knew like the secret that was happening, or like something about something else that was happening in the world where everyone else didn't know. So like that kind of sucks a little bit, but in like in like the same sense, like it kind of sucks to like not be able to, because like between you and me, like there's shit I don't tell you, and we talk to each other multiple times a week, like
right. Yeah, we're actual real life best friends, and there's definitely stuff that we don't know about each other. Currently, historically, if you put it in D&D terms, in our backgrounds versus, like there's definitely secrets we have from each other.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
secrets. There's just things you don't share.
I'm sure there's things that we know about each other that no one else knows about each other. So
also true.
So like I guess it's kind of like a balance. It's like where do you draw the line of like, is like a secret like too much to be hiding? Like like your changeling example, like it's cool to like be like, okay, yeah, my character's a changeling, but he's gonna like face as a Goliath, let's say. It's like he's gonna pose himself as Goliath for this whole time. Like that's a really cool like thing to base your character on. Like changelings in D&D have like lore to them, obviously, and people don't like changelings, so that is something that like it like would be a secret. But I think like as to what you said, when your party like gets to the point where they know they're gonna like vibe with each other, like that reveal the secret, and that should be like early.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's the turning point that like, oh guys, I have something to tell you, and then you like reveal that part about you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is like being a changeling who is hiding their identity for some reason. And, I think, especially in a world where maybe people are distrustful of changelings because they're just, kind of deceptive by nature, right? They can change their appearance. I think that could be a really cool secret, to have a secret to the world, right? You don't want to tell people you're a changeling. You want to hide your identity. But I don't think, like you said, it should necessarily be a secret to the party for very long. I think you should be looking for that opportunity to open up so that they understand your character, they understand your background, and then they're a part of the bit with you, right? They're a part of that kind of character arc of like, okay, you have to hide your identity or whatever,
Yeah, and like
you can play
an
that
example
together.
like that is more fun, I think, that you reveal yourself as a changeling to your party, and then now it's your party's problem that they have to make sure that you are hidden as a changeling. Like that's a way cooler story beat than, oh, I'm constantly hiding from my party that I'm a changeling, and eventually it'll like come out. Or it's like,
yeah.
I mean, what if you go into combat in the city, you get knocked down? Like I think as a changeling, if you're down, you turn back into your changeling form. So like, what happens when you're in combat in the middle of town, and you get knocked down, and there's just changeling lying around? Like, oh, it's not everybody in the party is like, oh my god, a changeling, what happened to my friend? It's the party being like, holy shit, we need to fucking figure this shit out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having a party secret is more interesting than a character secret. But it's a collaborative game. It's a collaborative story that you're telling, and I think that when everybody's in on the secret, and like you said, kind of it creates a problem for everybody. I think that's infinitely more interesting. Um, to kind of cap this question off, I think that there's a very apt quote that comes from the Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson fantasy series. Brandon Sanderson's the author. He wrote Mistborn, and one of the things from that book is there's always another secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's very apt, right? You can, if you reveal a secret, there's always another layer. There's always a hidden meaning, a deeper meaning, right? So it's like it's a slip up doesn't always mean the end. You can always kind of flesh that out.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
I've got one for you. I've got
okay.
one that I would like to go over. All right. So this got there's a little backstory to this, and I think there's a couple of really good points to it. So this is from Inner Tomorrow 6301. My first DM experience. I just thought I'd share something funny that happened to me with my first DM experience. The party wakes up in a dark room and sees a landscape reminiscent of Great Plains from Breath of the Wild, and then they decide that they should have a picnic in order to get to the party members. The person making the food rolls a nat 1, so I say it's poisoned. The first player who eats a roll gets a nat 20, so I say the whole bowl gets unpoisoned from sheer willpower. Later, they're in a dungeon and they've just finished fighting some orcs and decide to eat some food to heal, since that's how it works in video games. And the exact same thing happens. They roll a nat 1 and then a nat 20. The next room, they get over a pit of snakes, and 3 of them fell in, so they have to heal again. And you can guess what happens. The same thing, a nat 1 and a nat 20. These were the only nat 1s and nat 20s rolled in the entire game, and they all happen in the same way. I haven't been in DLM very long. Does this happen often? So, I mean, first of all, like, absurd situation. No. Yeah. That doesn't happen very often, but I think there's like 2 beats that we can really hit on here. So I think the first one is, how do you feel about food healing in tabletop games?
It is very video gamey, but I do kind of like it, especially because in our experience in our games, like, nobody really keeps track of food. Sometimes when you go to a tavern, you might describe the food and the drink that you get, but like, I'm never like checking in to be like, okay, well, have you guys eaten today? Like, I don't. Mm-hmm. Some people might do that survival game aspect of it. Rations are cheap. A couple sessions in, once you start making gold, it's really, plausible that your players could buy rations as much as they wanted. So it's not something that I really like to keep very close track of, because it's just another thing that takes my attention from all the other stuff I have to do, which I don't think is super fun. So I do actually really like the idea of your players sitting down to eat, and then maybe that counts as a free short rest, or maybe even a free long rest if it's like a big feast meal picnic thing or something. I do think that's kind of fun, and I just like the role play potential of like the party sitting around eating together, sharing stories, sharing drinks. Like, that sounds very fun to me, and it's a cool way to incentivize that with the healing kind of game mechanic.
I think that I take a much different stance than you.
Okay. Let me hear it.
Hate that this person made it so that food heals. I think it doesn't work in the context of, like, D&D especially. It does not work because there are already so many ways that you can heal in D&D that if you just like start with the rule that, like, okay, if you eat a slice of bread, like, you're gonna heal a little bit, that just like obfuscates having like health potions or doing short rests. I like the idea of like, maybe the food is like an incentivized like short rest, but then like at that point, just say you're taking a short rest and you're gonna eat. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It definitely can't just be like, oh, I have food in my pack, I eat it, and I have more health now. You know, like I do
Yeah.
think in my mind it is like a ritual thing where it's like, okay, you're going to take how much time to sit and eat,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe you get this much health back.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you really
and
want like food to like play some part in like healing, like maybe they have to take a short rest.
mhm.
But like if they say like, oh, I'm gonna eat like rations or something, like I don't know, throw in like a D6 or something. Like, all right, your
Maybe you
rations
can
will
get
give you
some
like an
bonus
extra D6.
healing. Yeah, like if you have some food, it's like, all right, your short rest, you know, you get access to your hit dice. And then maybe it's like, oh, you guys are eating, you got some food from that town or that dungeon, or you have some rations. Okay, then yeah, everybody gets an extra
Mm-hmm.
D4, D6, D8, D10, depending on how the quality of rations. You know, if you have some like really fine elven wine and bread or something, maybe it's like a bigger dice. That
Mm-hmm.
could be interesting. There's some cool stuff there.
Yeah, I now unfortunately I do think that this is a situation only applicable to D&D.
Uh huh.
Uh, because I can't like. I mean, maybe you could apply it to like Monster of the Week. You're like, oh yeah, you get 1 harm back if you eat a sandwich.
Oh yeah, I would have to. It's been a minute since we did. I don't remember always the conditions to heal harm in Monster of the Week.
Yeah, it's
Um,
most of it just is time based, so you have to like you gain
I
like
think
you regain 1 harm a day, stuff like that.
sure. I think if you find the idea of eating, drinking, kind of attractive in your game, like I think if that's something you want to keep track of, I do think there are fun and engaging ways to do it. Um, I never want it to feel like a survival game where I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
but have you guys eaten today? Like, otherwise you're gonna have a debuff. You're gonna have a -1 to all your rolls if you haven't eaten. Then your player's like, okay, well I have a bread. You know, like it's just
Yeah.
that's not fun to me. But I think yeah, if you can incorporate in a way that's fun and makes short or long rests more interesting because your party sits together and eats. I think
I
that's cool.
think
I like that.
Dungeon World does an excellent job of like rations where you when you do your take a perilous journey, you roll for rations or
Right,
the
and then you slowly
quartermaster.
mark them off.
Yeah, and you
You have
slowly
like
mark them
five
off.
rations. You
It's
tally and you mark them
it's
off. Yep.
fast and it's impactful. So like if you have 0 rations, like oh, I mean, eventually something bad is going to happen to you. Like
Yeah.
it's
And it's easy to track because it's always five. You can
incredibly
only
easy
ever
to
have
track.
five. So then it's like, you mark it down however many you take, depending on how long the journey is, how many rolls you make, the outcome of the rolls. You're marking away your rations and you're eating and drinking, eating and drinking. And then whenever you get back to a town, you can refill your rations and it just goes back up to five. So it's
Mhm.
fairly easy as well.
Yeah, I think it's a much more narrative, a lot less crunchy way of doing something that's a little bit
Mhm.
more survivally. It makes like kind of that feeling of having rations feel a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was one other thing in this story that I want to talk
Okay.
about. Uh, in the beginning, he talks about that someone rolls a nat 1 when they go to eat the food,
Yeah,
and so
and they
then
say
all
it's
the food is
poisoned.
poisoned. Which, so there's this interesting thing that happens, and I think this definitely applies to newer DMs. I definitely did this as a newer DM, where like nat 1s and nat 20s are reality warping crazy things,
Yeah.
and which can be very fun. There are moments where like
Where it
a
should
nat
do
1
that.
going horribly wrong can be very funny, or nat 20 going so incredibly well can feel very awesome. You just have to, and you'll get this with time. It's a skill that you develop, but you have to learn where exactly those fit. Every nat 1 cannot be the doom and gloom worst thing,
You
make a
poison
fool of your
entire
characters.
party.
And a nat 20 can't be this reality warping success every time either.
Mhm.
Because this person said, how often does this happen? I don't know about nat 1s directly into nat 20s, but nat 1s and nat 20s, they do happen. They're going to come up all the time, right? And always in the most
Mhm.
unexpected moments.
Yeah, that's literally
um
the second prompt I have written down.
yeah. And
Dice,
so I think
my
like,
prompt is the dice are going to do exactly what you don't expect.
yeah, always, right? And so I think in that situation, maybe that initial nat 1 where this person's offering food, that could be an interesting nat 1 is like, oh, you do realize that the food is poisoned, or maybe they don't realize, I guess, because it's nat 1. I don't know. what other checks they made, but you as the DM know that this food is poisoned. I think that with the players nat 20 when they eat the food, I don't know if this was a group check or a singular person's check.
It says the first player to eat it rolls a nat 20, and so I say the whole bowl gets unpoisoned.
Yeah, so I would have in that situation said, you take a bite of the food and you realize that this food is poisoned. Luckily for you, in this moment, your constitution or your fortitude is
fortitude. I like that.
Fortitude. Your fortitude was, so overpowering that you were able to resist this poison. It has no effect on you. You're so tough and strong and awesome, because you do want to make your players feel good about
tough and strong and awesome.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say that the whole bowl of food is unpoisoned. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
I think the goal with nat 1s and nat 20s, with as I mentioned before, sometimes they should get crazy in the moments where it's going to be most fun or entertaining. But 90% of the time, I think nat 1s and 20s should stick to the rule of the worst or best possible outcome, within your player's abilities, right? So,
yeah.
If you're like, I think a classic example is like you're playing a bard and you have a very high charisma and you roll a nat 20, right? Technically, rules as written, nat 20s are not an auto success in skill checks, only in attack rolls. Mm-hmm. But I think people often make them auto successes anyways, which is fair. I mean,
yeah.
If you roll a nat 20 and you don't succeed, what was the point of rolling? You shouldn't have been rolling, right?
It's way cooler.
But like you're a bard, you have very high charisma, and you are talking to the king, and you roll a nat 20 persuasion check. The king does not take off his crown, lay it on your head, declare you the new emperor of, Neverwinter, and go on his merry way to enjoy his new life as a peasant, right? Like, it's not satisfying. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you absolutely should, on a natural 20 persuasion check, maybe make a incredibly convincing argument to this king. You really pulled his heartstrings and you sway him in the direction to help your party or to do something that you're trying to convince him to do. But it should not be like, it's not a charm person. It's not a wish spell. It's not like this reality warping, which I've used a couple times because it feels that way thing. And I think that that's a good lesson to learn. And then once you feel like you have a good handle on applying realistic, kind of stakes for those nat 1s and those nat 20s, those worst case scenario and best case scenario within your player's abilities, then you start applying the fun, wacky ones. Because it's a game. The goal is always, number one rule is have fun, and sometimes they're just too like damn funny or awesome, with nat 1s and nat 20s respectively, that you just gotta go all out, and you will learn when to do that.
See,
sure.
And
that's a skill you'll develop.
I really used to have a problem as a DM where like if someone is in combat, if someone rolls a nat 1, I'd be like, well, what's worst case scenario? All right, you hit your teammate. That was like, I hated that. And like I did it all the time because I was like, well, there's got to be like some punishment for doing that bad, sure. Especially on like an attack like that. So I mean, the options that like in my brain, I don't like doing this now. The options in my brain were always like hurt a teammate, lose your weapon, in whatever capacity that is.
Yeah, I think those are pretty classic, like critical fails.
And like I think like for the most part, like this is a obviously like nat 20, nat 1 is so synonymous with D&D. Like other games that we've played just don't have this problem.
Right, a lot of them don't use D20s.
Yeah, most of them don't use
2D6s, 2D10s. Lots of other dice. Maybe they have special dice for a lot of the games, like Vampire the Masquerade. Well, I guess those are technically D10s.
They're technically right? D10s, but you have to like number them out.
Yeah. And they have specialized symbols on them, which you could use regular dice.
And like in those games, there are like great successes and like catastrophic failures. And but there's like rules that happen when you get like a great success or catastrophic failure. Like in Vampire the Masquerade, like if you succeed, if you succeed too hard, you like lash out or something, right?
Yeah, the beastly instinct takes over. It's
Yeah.
like if you just go to tackle somebody, but you exceed, there's like a bestial success, and then you could end up killing the guy. You
Yeah,
went too hard.
and like the same thing with like a catastrophic failure. Like I think in Vampire you can like straight up lose your character, like you lose control of your character, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can kind of go feral
So like
for a moment, or
this is like a problem that I think only happens in D&D, which is like we are not D&D people. I would say for the most part, we play Powered by the Apocalypse for most of our games anymore.
Anymore, we used to be only.
Used to be,
for close to
like 6 or 7 years. We probably
years. We only played 5th edition.
We didn't play another system until we played Monster of the Week. And we only played Monster of the Week because I don't even know where you found Monster of the Week. You just said, I found this really cool game and we have to play it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Now, then, we've mentioned a couple of them. Dungeon World is another Powered by the Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu, Warhammer. We've done a bunch now.
And we only discovered
this is a
Dungeon
very
World
D&D
last year.
Mm-hmm. And we've already done like 3 campaigns in it in a year. Yeah. Something you said, so you were talking about nat ones and throwing your weapon, losing your weapon, hitting a teammate. I think those are pretty classic critical fail rolls. Something that I've adopted more. Sometimes I think they're appropriate, but something you always want to keep in mind is no player is going to have fun if they roll poorly, which is going to happen, right? And the dice, that's the dice decisions. The player didn't do anything. The player could have said something really cool. I run up to the dragon, I leap into the air, and with 2 hands on my axe, I slam it down into the dragon's head, and nat 1, right? Like, and that feels bad. And then if you take that and you go, yep, the axe flies out of your hand and you land in dog shit and you slip and bonk your head and there's dog shit on your face, like,
and your head is bonked.
As a player, it just feels so bad. Like, you just, like, no one wants to be made out to be the idiot or the fool, especially when they felt like they were going to have a really cool character moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think like you can fall in dog shit on like a like on a roll that doesn't matter if like someone just like I hit it with my sword.
Yeah, like, it just depends, right? You don't no one wants to be made the fool, and so you should be a little sensitive of those nat ones. Something that I've found that is more interesting is, especially if they're like attacking an enemy and they roll a nat 1, then it becomes not only do you whiff this attack, they dodge out of the way. This enemy is much faster than you anticipated. They look at you, and you see a smile kind of creep onto their face. It's like, oh, so now, you've kind of built up the enemy. They're faster than the player thought. They underestimated them. There's a little bit of tension there. Now this player maybe has a special kind of vendetta against this enemy. They smiled at him. They laughed at him. You can build up that narrative and that story. And now it's like, now the player really wants to get him,
Yeah.
Rather than just making them look like an idiot and a fool.
Yeah. The last time I DM'd D&D, I like the random tables. Like, I think they're just like a really fun way to like spice up your game a little bit. And like things that happen in those random tables are things that you would never think of as a DM, which just leads to some cool situations. So I tried to make like a nat 1 and a nat 20 like random table. Like, these are the things that could happen. And you basically like, if you get like a nat 1, like we never ended up doing it because we stopped playing this campaign. But like I would roll, either I would roll or the player would roll, and whatever happened on the table. I think some of the things were like if you rolled a nat 1, like the enemy gets insight on you. They have advantage on their next roll against you. Or if you got nat 20, you gain some sort of insight on the enemy. You gain advantage on the next roll, or like
there's some extra little effects.
Yeah, you could fall prone.
Either way,
lose your sword. If you succeeded too hard, you can knock an enemy. If you got nat 20, knock an enemy prone, disarm them. Yeah. Like it was things like that, and I thought it was gonna be like a really cool way, because like that campaign especially, we were rolling terribly. A lot of nat ones. And that was like when I like realized that I was on Nat ones making people hit each other too much.
Yeah.
So that was
the bonus effects can be fun, but it is, I mean, yeah, but then you will fall into that thing of Nat ones are going to feel extra bad, right? There's an extra effect as well. So yeah, it's definitely a skill that you will develop and balance. And everybody's going to have different takes on it. Some people will want to play where Nat 20s, have this reality warping effect. I remember one time we were playing D&D it must have been middle school. We were young. And one of our friends, just out of nowhere, just said, I want to summon Cthulhu, right? Cthulhu had not been established. There was no eldritch themes to this campaign. They were just in a dungeon fighting goblins. And this guy just said, I want to summon Cthulhu. And he rolls the dice and gets a nat 20. And he's like, I do it. I did it.
I did
and
it.
I think I described kind of this psychic event that happened to him, and he saw visions of this great old one, and I kind of set up maybe some potential for him to maybe have this warlock patron or something now. I don't know what class he was playing, but maybe he could have dipped into warlock and had this thing. I thought that, if he wants to do something crazy, sure, let's explore this path. And then he was upset. He was upset that I didn't genuinely allow him then and there to just summon Cthulhu, right?
Yeah.
And some people might want to play like that. So, always communicate with your group, with your players. What do they like? What's the most fun for them? It's going to vary group to group. Number one rule is just always have the most fun possible. That's why we play these games. We get together in person or online, and everybody should be laughing, having a good time. DM players included. Everybody should have fun, and that's always the goal.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Summon Cthulhu when you want to. Sometimes it doesn't. Summon
sometimes
Cthulhu.
It's fun.
Sometimes it's fun. sometimes.
Do you remember talking about Nat 1s, Nat 20s? Do you remember one time we had like a rogue, and we were at some party or at some dinner, and they wanted to roll a stealth check. I keep saying they. It might have been me. I don't remember. They rolled a stealth check, and they fit into a small bowl of nacho cheese sauce to hide.
Okay, that was this is when we did a Dungeon Crawl Classic. This was like one of the first times we ever played. I think I know whose character it was. But we were in like this cave, and there's a fountain or something, and they're like, oh my god, I need to hide. They rolled a nat 20, and then you were just like, where do you hide? And then he was like, I turn into liquid and melt in the vase or something.
Yeah, there was something about nacho cheese sauce. I don't remember how or why.
Yeah,
that's definitely not in the Dungeon Crawl Classic book.
No, definitely not in the book. Classic, but
that we were in 6th grade at the time, so
yeah, that was
crazy things happened.
That was from one of the Dungeon Crawl Classics we played, and I think I remember which one because I think it was our second one because I think it was my second character.
Yeah.
My second barbarian because my first two were barbarians.
One of these episodes we're gonna have to reminisce about some characters we've played and tell the people what some of our experience in the 10 years we've been playing. Yeah. But
you've got way less because you're such a forever DM that like
yes
I've got a handful, whereas you probably have
maybe you can say maybe you can say your favorite characters. I'll mention one or two of mine, and then maybe I'll pick some other ones from people we've played with and kind of give a mention of some characters that I liked from them.
Dude, hell yeah, I'm so about that.
All right, so be on the lookout for that. I think this has been a really fun episode. We answered some interesting questions, talked about player secrets, campaign secrets, slipping up as a DM, nat 1s, nat 20s, and all the in-between. So I've been Keegan, the forever DM, as Jake said, and this has been Jake, the storyteller. I think which is fitting. Everybody's telling a story at D&D. And check out our other podcast, The Northwood Project. We're working on that. That one's a little bit slower. It's a fictional story
horror
podcast. We're writing it. Yeah, horror anthology. If you're into that, if you've ever listened to the Magnus Archives, anything like that, you'll like it. So go check that out. And yeah, this has been the Gelatinous Dudes, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.